If your hope has been missing, dormant, dried up, or just long gone, I hope you listen to this story. In 2008, I lost my hope after a traumatic auto accident left me with debilitating PTSD and agoraphobia. Oh, I looked fine on the outside, but on the inside, I was such a hot mess. I didn't know if I was coming or going. And it didn't help that I had a prior traumatic brain injury. It complicated everything. At that time, I worked for the art institutes. Traveling was my gig and I loved it. I loved my job. After the accident, leaving my house became a challenge because I was terrified of driving or even being a passenger. The fear was paralyzing. Long story short, I lost my job. I lost a lot of things. And losing my job created a lot more stress. I could not understand how my brain got this way. What happened? I'd always been able to fight back, jump back up, get up again, and do it again. But this time, I couldn't. Well, I was really blessed to have started dating a really nice man about 5 months after the auto accident. And thank goodness he got to see me before I completely fell apart in January '09. That's when PTSD took over and completely shut me down. I jokingly called him Superman to my best friend because he really did seem to just kind of fly in, swoop in, and take over where I needed, but I'm very resistant to being helped, and I said no a whole lot more than I said yes. He assured me he wanted to help me. No expectations whatsoever. Well, that turned out to be a good thing because eventually I couldn't leave my house at all, let alone get to any of the doctor's appointments, and I had so many. I couldn't get there, so I reached out for help. You know what he did? He planned our routes to go all side streets so I didn't have to get on an expressway or a freeway, which terrified me. It took us forever, but it felt so much safer. Pretty soon that name Superman stuck. A year later, I moved in with him. I know, what took me so long. Stubborn, I'm stubborn, I'm stubborn. And when my cat liked him a lot, and he asked me to marry him, I said yes. And we began making our plans to get married. He surprised me with a well-planned itinerary to Sedona, one of my favorite places in the whole world to get married. He chalked up major brownie points doing that. Major. I admit it required medication to even get me on that plane and a cocktail after we got in the air. And I still left claw marks in his arm. I was so afraid. I was afraid of everything. I had literally become afraid of everything. It wasn't until the next day, leaving Phoenix, that my anxiety increased so badly that all I could do was watch out of the window at the guardrails flying by. Oh yeah, that's scenic. And then I started rocking and crying and sweating and blubbering and I was mad. I was really mad at myself for being so weak. Why couldn't I get my poop together just for my own wedding? Why couldn't I just do something without being such a freaking scaredy cat? Realized if I didn't get a grip on those voices, I was truly going to ruin my wedding memories. And I don't know if it was because I was back in that area. The Four Corners area is my homeland. It's the place where I was raised. And I felt so comfortable there. I remembered my former selves who traveled all over, and somehow I set my sights on her. She was so brave. She traveled everywhere. She didn't look back. She hitchhiked, she drove, she was so brave. I called out to her. Where the hell are you when I need you? Where have you been? And suddenly, this voice rose up inside of me and said, and I still don't know who opened my mouth like a ventriloquist, but the next thing I heard myself saying to my Superman was, please pull over. He asked if I was sick. I said, no, I want to drive. Got a little silent there for a minute. and he double checked. Did you say you want to drive? I said, yes, I want to drive. I want to drive now. He calmly pulled over. We traded seats, and I proceeded to drive north to Prescott. Not only did I drive to Prescott, I drove the next 2+ weeks all over Arizona, New Mexico, and Colorado, showing Superman all of the places that I grew up in and all of my favorite places I'd always wanted to show him. I turned the wheel back over to Superman about 30-40 miles away from Santa Fe when the traffic got too much, and we decided to stay at the La Fonda Inn downtown Santa Fe before we flew out a couple of days later in Albuquerque. I was excited to be in Santa Fe because I'd always wanted to see the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum. During the walk to the museum, I looked on the ground and saw this funny-looking rock. It was a tiny rock. Nothing written on the back. It had hope written on the front with 5 small dots underneath it. I began thinking, who made this rock? Did some children make it? Did they accidentally drop it? Who made the rock? Where did it come from? Did someone accidentally leave it there? Or did they leave it there intentionally for someone to find? I thought it was so cool. Energetically, it felt so good. So I put it down on this planter to take a picture of it. And I was going to leave it for someone else when I realized that rock was for me. It wasn't for anyone else. It was my rock. The only thing I hadn't brought with me on that trip was hope. No, I had no hope that I would end up doing what I ended up doing. Suddenly there I was, standing in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I had driven hundreds and hundreds of miles. Hope didn't leave with me, but it met me where I was at. When I said yes to taking control back in my life, hope met me, and it traveled with me, and hope became the period at the end of the sentence. You just drove hundreds and hundreds of miles. You badass, you. When I returned home, I could not get that rock out of my head. How could something be so small, be so full of magic? I was a completely different woman. In 2009, I started a blog, and I started the blog just to kind of write things out to help me get through PTSD. During the accident, I had an experience when I thought that I was going to die, that all of the creative things, the things that I was going to do someday, I hadn't done yet. I had put them on hold because I was in survival mode. I put everything on hold. Maybe you've done that too. And I realized I'm not going to get to do these. I'm dying right now. And my son, I thought about my son, that I'd never get to see him again. And I resigned myself to dying. So when I didn't die, then I got really confused why I couldn't kick back. I couldn't pick myself up like I had all those other times. So I used blogging to write these things out. I thought, okay, I got another chance. I'm going to write down all the creative things that I want to do one by one, and I came up with 101 things that I wanted to do, creative things. And I began doing them, taking pictures, writing about it, and posting. I never expected anyone to look at my blog, except maybe my Superman and family and a few close friends. My blog became my life raft. I began checking off those things one by one, and within a year, my blog was given an award for being one of the top PTSD blogs, and I made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of friends and people who also had experienced PTSD, and I actually started helping people. My loyal readers and followers were as excited about me getting married as I was. So of course, as soon as I got back, I started blogging about it. And one of the things that I blogged about was finding the Hope Rock, because it led up to the miraculous story of me actually driving, I would say 90% of our honeymoon. That was big news. And then everybody got excited about the Hope Rocks, and so did I. I started making them. I started taking them with me to doctor's visits and appointments that I had and leaving them places. It became this exhilarating feeling of giving hope away, that maybe someone would experience feeling hope again. I started a weekly challenge inviting people to make hope rocks and blog about it, take pictures, share them all around, hide them for others. It went to Scotland, England, Jamaica. There were little Taekwondo students making hope rocks and hiding them for others. It took off. Shortly thereafter, I started a Hope Rocks page on Facebook. It was an exciting time in my life, seeing how not only could my hope be restored, but it could be a catalyst, a ripple effect for others to experience hope too. And every day I became stronger and stronger and stronger. I went from being bedridden to becoming a human sparkler. It didn't happen overnight, but I now had hope. It's taken me 15 years to get here, and this year will be 13 years since I married my Superman, and you'd think the story would end there. Well, it is just getting started. Stay tuned for the next part. It's going to blow your mind. Remember the other day when I told you that I experienced something that I wanted to call a miracle? Well, lean in. Are you ready for a holy wow moment? Here it comes. I'm doing a video interview with the person who made the Hope Rock that I found in Santa Fe. She contacted me last Friday, Good Friday in fact, and I opened up my email on Easter Sunday on an account that I never ever open up. In fact, it's the old account for my blog that I no longer blog on. She emailed me to tell me that she was pretty certain that she was the one. And after some verification and some facts that only she would know, it's been verified that she is the one who made my Hope Rock. Her name is Adrienne, and she's going to share the incredible story of how and why she started making Hope Rocks almost 20 years ago. You see, I'm just one of countless known and unknown Hope Rock stories. If you made it this far listening, it's no accident. I believe it was meant to be. And you will too, especially after you hear all of the twists and turns and events that it took to get this rock in my hand. And I have no doubts that you're going to want to be a part of the next leg of the Hope Rock story. Stay tuned. Stay tuned.